Hey, Chris,
Yeah, Fred.
what's a Mason?
That's a really good question, Fred.
You've reached the internet's home for all things Masonry. Join Chris and I as we plumb the depths of our ancient craft. From the common gavel to the trowel, nothing is off the table. So grab your tools and let's get to work. This is On the Level.
We are back.
Back again.
We are back. Look who's back. Back again. Chris and Fred.
All right, hold on.
Oh.
We can't start the show with Chris singing.
It's rapping.
Was that rapping?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Send your cards and letters to Chris and tell us if that was rapping.
Oh.
I'm not a big rapper. Gotta be honest with you.
I'm not either, as you can tell from my previous rap session.
I'm starting to get that. Yeah. Now our associate producer Johnny, he's big into the rap thing. So
if he was here, he'd be like, "Cut the rap off. Move it along."
He'd be saying that's not rap.
Yes, you're right. I apologize to everyone for that. But good morning.
Good morning.
Afternoon. Good evening.
Good morning, my brother.
Night.
Oh no, it's morning. It's 6:43 a.m. We are here in the studio, and we got here promptly at 6 a.m. I'm very proud of you, my brother.
A couple of ruffians up in here.
Couple of ruffians. I like the concept of ruffians.
Wandering in off the streets.
We should probably do something with that idea. I don't know. Just saying.
It's a good thought.
So I want to start off the show today just giving a major shout out.
Is that what you want? Is that what you want?
That's what I
want. You
want
want to start the show like that?
That's what I want, and that's what I'm going to get.
All right, Johnny.
I'm going to get what I want.
Go for it.
A major shout out to the brothers that met at Worshipful Burns' house the other night to do the esoteric group that we did. Discussion night. Yeah. Went really well. We had 13 men around a fire.
That was cool, huh?
Drinking premium whiskey and cigars and discussing all things esoteric, Masonic esoteric teaching. And I, for one, just felt to me it kind of took our Masonic experience, our Masonic career to another level.
Yeah,
it was a bonding moment. I don't want to get too drippy here, but it was a great moment. I thought. I mean, all around. I don't think there was a cross word, a discouraging word whatsoever. No. It was all positive. It was all educational.
There was aha moments for people too.
Yeah, there really was.
Were like, wow, that's crazy that you said that. I never thought about that. Not from us, but from the people that were there.
Yeah, that's right. It was really great. I would encourage anybody out there listening, get something like that going in your lodge. Get together and do
Here's the other thing, though. How many lodges were represented there?
5.
5 lodges.
5 lodges
what?
out of our district.
Fred, how is that possible?
How is that possible?
5 people from 5 different lodges cared enough to get together outside the lodge without any hope of recompense or titles, just to talk about Freemasonry.
And also, let's not forget 3 active worshipful masters as well.
Yeah.
So that was quite a gathering.
3
sitting masters were there.
Well,
it was awesome.
I think that they were doing it without us previously. 2 of them.
Yeah.
Worshipful Tim Ferdon of Venice Lodge really is the
shout out
catalyst. You know, he was the one that was like, I guess he heard the podcast after one of their sessions and thought we should bring them into this somehow.
Somehow he thinks we know what we're doing.
Yeah, he did bring us into that, and it was. I think that was a success for everybody that was there. And immediately they wanted to do it again. So we're trying to put another date on the books for next month.
Absolutely.
At somebody else's house, because now we have our entire district, so we got to move from the north to the south.
Right. And I think that's important. I think it can't be static in one place. It's got to be a traveling show where we go from, area to area. They were talking a little, I think, down in Inglewood. For those of you guys don't know, Inglewood is south. We're in Sarasota, Florida. Inglewood is on the Gulf Coast. Inglewood is south of us.
And Bradenton is north of us.
Bradenton is north of us. So our district covers that, the Gulf Coast of Florida area. So what, Punta Gorda up through Tampa, I think. I could be wrong about that.
We go just up to Bradenton.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah, we're not Tampa. Okay.
And east out to wherever Peace River is.
Peace River.
Arcadia?
Arcadia, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, moment of silence there. Not good.
Arcadia.
Dead air.
Yeah, Arcadia.
I know everybody pauses. Arcadia. Oh
Hate
boy.
to drive there.
Now, if you're in the motorcycle community, you love Arcadia because that's a great place. A couple of great bars out there, man.
Really?
Good times. Good times. Yeah.
Huh.
Fun ride too. Fun ride to scoot out there with the boys, and
It's quiet, right?
it's quiet until we show up. Yeah.
Do you guys ride out there?
All the time. All the time. Yeah.
The Shrine Motor Corps?
That I have never ridden out there with them, but I'm new.
Okay.
I'm new, so
I
we'll,
thought that you're talking about just as regular folks,
yeah, just
mere mortals.
a bunch of guys with Harleys. We jump on the bikes and we ride out east. And there's a couple of cool old bars out there that go have an adult beverage, perhaps a premium cigar, and hang out and talk all things Masonic and or not.
Did they ever talk about the Master Mason degree, Fred?
Do they ever talk about the Master Mason degree? I'm going to say yes, and I'm just going to go with that lie.
Like we are today. Right now, going to talk about the Master Mason degree?
We are indeed. Nice segue, my brother. Nice segue. Yeah, well, we left off. We left off with the 3 Grand Masters. So we are currently at 5.14 in the Mentor's Manual. This is the GL 217 Revised Edition 2008. This is the official Mentor's Manual for the state of Florida.
This is the one you brought to the esoteric discussion, right?
I did. And I did that for a very specific reason, is to keep the conversation going in that direction. And if you think it was, some guy droning on reading out of a book, not so. We read a paragraph. I read the beginning paragraph out of the EA side, and we had a 35-minute discussion that went round and round the whole group. I think every man shared, and asked questions and gave answers, and it was incredible. So if you're going to do this, I recommend grab at whatever state you're from. I'm sure you all have a mentor's manual. Just grab that mentor's manual, and that's where you can begin the conversation. And you got to have some kind of knucklehead up there like me who's able to kind of direct everybody back without stifling, free thought, which is not easy to do. But I know you're out there. I know you guys are out there, so you can do it. Yeah. It's
you will be once you try it once or twice.
Right. At first, it's a little uncomfortable. People are like, "Who is this guy? Why does this guy keep butting in?" And then all of a sudden, they're like, "It's flowing. The conversation is good and rich," and it's like, "Oh, okay." Because I don't really have that much intelligence to share, but I do have this annoying habit of getting into people's way, constantly. So it works. It works well for me.
You play the cards you're dealt.
You play the cards you're dealt, brother. Anyways, I'm going to read from the 5.14 is the Temple of Solomon. I would like to do the next 3 in this particular one because it's the Temple of Solomon, the symbolization of the temple, and then Solomon, King of Israel. And it's a lot of reading. Maybe we'll try to break it out a little bit, but let's just start off with that 5.14 and see where we go. How about that?
5.14.
5.14.
Wash it over me.
Here we go. The Temple of Solomon. This magnificent structure was located on Mount Moriah at Jerusalem. It was near the place where Abraham was about to offer up his son Isaac. I got an echo in here. The site was purchased by David, king of Israel, Solomon's father, from Oman, the Jebusite. For it was at this place that the hand of the destroying angel was stayed after David had repented. The cost of this threshing floor was 50 shekels of silver, which included the oxen offered by David as a sacrifice to God at the staying of the destroying angel in the time of the great pestilence. The incident is recorded in 2 Samuel 24 and 1 Chronicles 21. The name of the Jebusite and the cost of the threshing floor differ in the 2 accounts. Correct. That is correct.
Oh, lovely.
Let's not go there. The building of the temple was begun in the year of the world, 2992, and completed around 3000, which is 1012 to 1004 BC, which is a little easier to understand. 7.5 years later, the people of Israel had come out of Egypt some 480 years before as a band of refugees. The mind of this people had grown, for they had conquered a new land, established both a formal religion and a government sufficiently powerful to make possible such a project. The people lost their sense of spiritual direction and destiny, so that their temple was destroyed in the year of 586 BC by the hordes of King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of the Chaldeans, which is actually Babylon, modern day Babylon, So the Chaldeans, King Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon, which was the largest, most powerful nation on the planet at the time.
Someone you shouldn't make enemies with?
Someone you shouldn't make enemies with, but if you wanted to read the story of Nebuchadnezzar's life, I recommend the book of Daniel, with the prophecy of Daniel. He's in there, and it's pretty amazing. It's an amazing story. But anyway, so
we did cover a lot of the temple, I think, in the early first session. I think we did on the Master Mason degree.
Yeah.
I know we covered its building and who we bought it from and what the threshing floor was. We definitely covered all that stuff.
Right. So
interesting they came back to it after the kings.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I think that was just one of our rabbit holes.
Oh.
It wasn't actually in the book. We just ended up going there. Yeah, absolutely. So, but the analogy of the temple, I love it. I love that of building the temple.
The temple that housed the living. Was it the living spirit of God was housed in the sanctum sanctorum?
Well, the Holy of Holies, the most holy place, was the place where no one couldn't just walk in there. There was a veil that covered it, and inside was the presence of God, which you couldn't enter in to that place. The priest could enter in once a year. Yeah, we did talk about this. The priest could enter in once a year, and he would bring a blood sacrifice on behalf of the people, because you cannot go into the presence of perfection in your current state without mediation, and we'll leave that right there.
Well,
but that's the point of the sacrificial system that we're talking about right now. It was mediatorial, and it was also temporary. It pointed to something else, and there's always a mediator between you and the judge, right? You have an attorney, right?
Or a dead animal. In
this case, it was a symbolism, which we're Masons. We're into symbolism. But speaking of symbolism, tell me what is the symbolism of the temple, Solomon's temple, to you? Where do you start with that?
Well, I start with the entered apprentice degree. When I'm told to stand in the northeast corner of the lodge, where all cornerstones are laid.
Right.
And that I'm supposed to start building a spiritual temple. So that's where the idea of the temple, me building the temple, began.
Right.
My Masonic journey. And now we're at the end of the Master Mason degree, and I'm getting a more vivid picture of what that means to have. What's the symbolism and the representation of that temple that I'm supposed to be building, which is that I'm trying to make myself worthy of housing, just like the sanctum sanctorum was, the living spirit of God, like to be worthy of that. To build my temple enough to be worthy of that is the lifelong goal that I have as a Mason.
Right.
And I don't have thousands of bearers of burden. I only have myself. So it's going to take more than 7 years, unfortunately.
I would say that it's going to take the rest of our lives. That would be.
Yeah. Hopefully we get close by the end. Hopefully. But it's the journey that matters, that you're actually trying to do it. Talking to my wife about this recently, unmasonic, but so Masonic, is that it's a burden to be critical of yourself and to work on yourself. It goes against your nature, and so it's very difficult for people to do, but the rewards are unimaginable for those willing to take that path. And it is really not for everybody. It's hard work. People don't like to do hard work and to challenge one of the things that came out in our discussion group was challenging our worldviews and how hard that is.
Yeah, that's true.
That might be the most difficult thing we do as people, is to change our worldview.
Well, a worldview is how you see the world. It's the glasses that you see the world through. So yes, changing that, developing it first thing, and knowing what it is really, really hard. And then changing it based on, plausibility and fact is very difficult, and you have to have an open mind. You have to be willing to surround yourself with people who have very different views than you, which Masonry supplies you every day. And you can grow within that worldview. My worldview comes from a very Christian background. That's my worldview. I see the world through that lens, and other people. And in the discussion group last night, it was pretty cool to see the different worldviews that were spoken. And I was very much noticing, the different perspectives that each man had when they were coming from. It's just, to me, if you're surrounded by people who look like you, think like you, and talk like you, get out of there and get yourself out into the world.
Don't try to be king of the wicker people.
Don't try to be king of the wicker people.
No.
I don't know. What does that mean?
I don't really know.
Okay. All right.
King of the Wicker People. I'm pretty sure that was a quote of some movie. And if you're listening, tell us what it is.
Yes.
You'll win a prize.
Hey, we had somebody send us an email with a correction about a movie reference.
Yeah.
And I want to say, first thing, good catch, brother, out there.
And he sent video proof, I think.
He did. So George Clooney was, in fact, Batman at one time.
Yes.
And I made the mistake of saying Christian Slater. I meant to say Christian Bale, who was also Batman.
Okay. I was trying to run through all the Batman, and you were like, no,
it's Bale. It's Bale. And in my opinion, he ruined Batman. I think he did a terrible job.
Those are great movies, though.
Very good. The Dark Knight, let me just back up. The Dark Knight was a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Joker?
really good. Yeah. Heath Ledger as the Joker, which he gave his life for that role, for goodness sakes. My goodness.
Another level. That man was possessed by.
I didn't like the way he went about it, and with the voice. I think it was the voice, the way he talked as Batman. Here, talk like this. It was just like, come on, man. I mean,
that was the best thing they did with the new one in Ben Affleck, is they put like a voice modulator on the Batman, so he didn't have to do the crazy voice all the time.
Right, yeah.
It just sounded more scary naturally.
Right, yeah.
And he's a tech guy. Of course he'd do that.
Of course he would. That's right.
Just, hey,
right.
I'm going to beat you up with my technology.
Right.
No. Use the technology to scare them, man.
Wow, what a rabbit hole. Man, we're on Batman right now. Woo!
Water's fine down here. Come on, guys.
Come on down. Some Batman.
Yeah, you're right. He did send a correction and multiple pictures. That guy was really wanting to make sure we knew about.
Yeah, and right now I'm apologizing to him because I should have brought up the email so I could shout out to him by name. So forgive me, brother. I will eventually. We will do that because it would be the right thing to do. So, anyways, for me, the temple, building the temple of Solomon, it always comes back down to building my temple so that I am useful to the master. That's the whole idea for me. And, in Masonry, wherever you go, you see the temple, right? You walk into lodge, right? And it's laid out like the temple. I mean, everything you do is based on that great structure. There is physical evidence of that structure in the place that it is recorded in the accounts that are in Chronicles and Samuel's. It's there. The foundation is still there. And it's the second temple, I suppose you could say, because Herod's temple was built on top of the ruins of the original temple.
Right.
But nevertheless,
that one got ripped down too.
Yeah, that one got destroyed too in AD 70. The Roman hordes came through.
Well, Fred,
and destroyed it.
You'll like this. When you do join the York Rite.
When I do? That's quite an assumption.
I know you will. And when you do, you will receive a degree in which you actually have to enter the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Uh-huh.
And you, as a participant, get to go do that yourself.
I would just say that it is a representation
Yeah, of course.
of the sanctum sanctorum.
Like everything we do.
The true sanctum sanctorum is no longer necessary, and it is no longer an actual physical place. It's a person now. But we'll go. I'll grant that. Let's move on.
It's not. You're not going to Jerusalem for this degree.
Right. Right.
It is here, probably, depending on where you live when you join. But here, and it's just such a cool experience because you read about this, and some of our degrees we do really well, and that one's one of the ones that is impressive.
Okay.
Leaves an impression after you go through that. To imagine what they must have, the steps they took and the things they did
right
at that time in order to worship was pretty intense.
Oh, it was very intense. It had, right. And it makes sense, because if God is who he says he is, then he's a pretty serious dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not a dude.
With.
He's not to be, right. So, and that was the whole idea behind it. And that's why representation is so important. You can't just blah, 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 walk right in, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? It's like you're a pile of ash. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Struck
So,
down.
But anyways, it goes back to, that's a great point. It goes back to building the temple, building my temple so that I can be useful to the master. And that goes back to, the vices and superfluities of life, the square, which represents the virtues, which we try to build the virtues, and we try to tear down the vices, in our lives, and be those men who are useful to our families, to our community, to our churches, to everybody, in this world. And who doesn't believe that we need more men who are, pro virtue in this world these days? Because there's a lot of vice and a lot of lack of virtue out there, especially in the business world. I find anymore. My goodness, in the construction industry, it is just shark-infested waters everywhere you go. Everyone's out to, you can't trust anybody. I know I'm exaggerating there, but it's like you can't trust anybody in business anymore. Everything's got to be locked down so tight. And even then, you still end up walking away, defamed and harmed or financially, harmed in some way. It's just that doing business in this world anymore is tough because nobody practices virtue anymore.
Yeah. People just assume step on your faces, look at you these days.
Yeah.
And it's like everywhere. It's in your politics, your church, it's in your job. It just seems to be a part of life in our country, at least. I'm assuming it's all over the world. People are like this. By and large, it's like, and then, does every generation think that about itself? I wonder.
Yeah, right, right.
Do we all look to the past and be like, man, they were so much better than we are today? Probably.
There were
greater generations, right? The greatest generation is still a thing.
Don't get me started on that one. No,
you're not on board with the greatest generation.
Not on board. But I can tell you this: there was a major emphasis on virtue at one time in this country. When the Puritans first came over here. Puritan's a bad word because Hollywood has turned them into these weird, crazy people. But actually, they were just people that were just fleeing persecution and trying to find a new place. And were they perfect? No, they were not perfect. They were flawed human beings. But they did have a very high standard of virtue when it came to business, when it came to family and all of that stuff. So back in that day, the contract was, in fact, your reputation in a handshake. Your handshake with someone you were doing business with in the presence of other people was as good as a contract. Because if you violated that handshake, that agreement, you're done.
Yeah,
you were done in the community.
Your word
Nobody
was no good
would
to anybody.
ever do business with you again.
Yeah.
And it was a different time.
So consequences for your actions. You had
Big
consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there are no consequences for your actions, the bar just gets moved further and further down.
Yeah.
And then you're at this race to the bottom, which is kind of where we're at now.
That's where we are, huh?
That's where we are. We're racing to the bottom. But let me stop right there. it's easy for me, a 60-year-old grumpy old man, to say that. But I got to be honest with you. Lately, I've been talking to one of my sons, Troy. He's just about to get his architectural and design license. He's gone through what seems like 10 years of schooling to get it. And he's a brilliant designer and architect. But he is also part of a group of young men. And I see it, too, in Masonry as well. I see some young men in Masonry, too, where I feel like, you know what, if these guys can get some traction going, there is hope. There definitely is hope. It's not in 60-year-old men on a podcast like me. The hope is in these young men who truly understand virtue, who understand, what democracy really is, which we don't really have anymore here in this country. And these guys that won't take it anymore, they're not listening anymore. They don't believe it anymore.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because I think about like Kyle.
Yeah,
a young guy, right? In your maybe 20s. You guys don't know who Kyle is, but
shout out Kyle.
Kyle's a young guy in his 20s that's relatively new to our lodge, and he represents that age. I think he's grown up with technology. He didn't embrace it; it just is.
It
a
is
part
for
of their
him,
life.
right? There was never a time that there wasn't a full-blown internet.
It's not like they had to embrace it. It's like air.
It's always been there.
They have it,
right?
And I'm in car rides and listening and stuff, and they're talking about using technology to rid themselves of technology and control.
Right.
All they dream about is a life without the system of control that they grew up in.
I love
and all
that.
this technology.
It's so
they
full
just
circle,
want to be
right?
free of it.
Right. Isn't that awesome?
And we are the cause of it. We were just like, more technology, more. Oh, we got a problem? Let's use some technology to fix it.
Yeah.
And every time we do, it takes away a little bit more of ourselves, right? It's like a little more controlling. Maybe it does more things for us that we should be doing for ourselves. And it becomes more and more embedded into our lifestyle. And, these kids today just want to be able to be themselves and figure out who they are. They don't even know because, they grew up with social media. How warped. Can you imagine if you grew up with social media?
Right, yeah.
As part of your life?
And
what that does to you?
And so many other things, I didn't have the best childhood growing up. My parents were, they did the best they could, but I had interaction with family members on a daily basis. I went outside. I rode bicycles. When I was young, I grew up in the swamps of New Jersey, and we had 150 square miles of swamp behind us.
New Jersey has swamps?
Oh yeah, it was great. It was awesome, and it all. We
so
lived.
You're right at home in Florida swamps.
Well, this is a different swamp.
We still have prehistoric animals in our swamps. How about you?
I lived on a lake that it was a river that you could get on a little boat, and you could end up on the Atlantic Ocean in 2.5 hours through the Barnegat Inlet. And any of you from Jersey know what I'm talking about, the Barnegat Bay and the Barnegat Lighthouse. And I actually did it, me and my cousin, as a child. Bad idea, being in a tiny little boat next to super tankers. But different story.
That was before social media.
Yeah, but I had interaction with nature. Everybody, all old people say this crap all the time.
Right.
Well, when I was young, I was outside and we played and stuff. Mm-hmm. These guys grew up where the parents were hypnotized by technology. Yeah. Therefore, by default, they had nothing else to do but to go to technology.
It raised them.
It literally raised them. And I look at my one son, Troy, as an example. He wants to go outside. He wants to do things like go hiking. He wants to camp. My daughter and my son-in-law up in Virginia, they just bought a camper. They want to be outside. My son Eric wants to get a boat. My other son, my son Danny.
That's what we do on vacation. We go to a place that has the least phone signal to unplug for a couple days, just to get a little bit of like a breath.
I'm all about that.
Yeah, that's like desirable vacation time, just unplugging from tech.
Right. I noticed that at the esoteric discussion group the other night. Not
You
one
didn't see
person
a
had their
single
phone.
Nope.
Not one person. We were out there for what, 2 hours, 2.5 hours?
2.5 hours.
2.5
Yeah.
hours in this discussion, and which felt like half an hour to me. But not one person pulled their phone out, not even one time. And we were outside in the wilderness, and it was nice, man. It was really nice, you know, to interact with other human beings apart from technology. So anyways, we're beating that one to death. But I think it's a great point. I think Masonry offers an opportunity for young men, men of all ages, but specifically young men, to get back to the art of human interaction, of helping each other. Because, you know, young men learn best from older men who have gone before them and who are willing to turn back and teach and mentor and be good examples. And where else are you going to find that, man? Except it's right here. It's right here in our fraternity. That's what we're about. We're literally about that. The catechism practice is what? What's that about? That's one man who's already done it, teaching 2 or 3 men who haven't done it yet. Yeah. I mean, that's really what this fraternity, in my opinion, is all about, and it's so sorely needed. Yeah. And I think that's why the craft is growing the way it's growing. Right now, it is exploding across the world. Yeah. Numbers are going up because I think young men are looking for their tribe. You know, they're looking for a place to be challenged, and I think Freemasonry is it. So that's my plug for our craft there this morning.
The most important thing is they're looking for something real.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's something that they can find.
Not virtual, but actual.
Something real, like spiritually real and physically real, and relationships that are real. Yeah. Because they see nothing but fake all the time.
Yeah, it's intellectual carbohydrates. We've been feeding our kids on cereal boxes.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, and they're anemic. They're starving. They're hungry for actual food, you know, on a spiritual and intellectual basis. And we're big on that. At least I am. I know you are too, brother. That's one of the reasons why this podcast exists, is to light a fire under every man listening to go back to your lodge, and set everyone on fire. Just set the place on fire, man. Just
Not
do
literally.
it. Be the arson.
He's talking figuratively.
An intellectual arsonist, man. Be the arsonist and the fireman all at the same time.
Not all actions are endorsed by Chris Burns of the Observer Podcast, and please refrain from setting your lodge on fire.
Do not light your lodge on fire, please. Okay. All right. So 5.15 is the symbolism of the temple.
Mm. Oh, we were just talking about that.
Yeah, let's read and see what happens. This is an inexhaustible area of interpretation for the student of symbolism. For the purposes of this manual, however, only one seems important and will be used. The chief purpose of Solomon's temple was to provide a dwelling place for the Most High in the midst of his people Israel. The religious concepts of the people of Israel had grown in respect to God, progressing from the Ark of the Covenant, carried on the shoulder of the priests, to the great temple which Solomon erected. The idea that God dwelled with man, however, was still the fundamental, which dominated human thought and should do so in our own day. So, right. There are those who claim that this was the most perfect edifice ever erected by man. Whether this is the case or not is a matter of pure supposition. But perfection was certainly the goal of both David and Solomon, each of whom had a part in planning God's dwelling place among men. And so what that's saying is the primary purpose of using the temple, you know, as symbolism in Masonry is that it symbolizes the dwelling place of God with man, a holy and righteous, all-knowing, all-powerful God with troubled, flawed, imperfect human beings. And how does that happen? And all of the things that the temple represents, and there's a lot of theology there, man. You could spend a lifetime studying it, which I have done. But it's absolutely fabulous. But for Masonry and for the Mason, any Mason listening to this, the analogy is good. It's a good, strong analogy that the temple represents this work that you're doing to know God, to know who to know this God, and to move forward. And like I always tell people, and you've heard me say it over and over again, what does that mean? What do you believe? Why do you believe it? What is the most plausible explanation for all of these concepts and ideas that you are believing in and or studying or investigating? It's those are the intellectual pursuits of spirituality that are just so important.
Yeah, I think this is like a important part of Freemasonry, that is the pursuit of a closer relationship with our Creator is the purpose of Freemasonry, probably at its core. The tools and the system are all meant to allow us to force us to try to get closer with our Creator, but no restriction on that Creator or what it is or the system that you choose to believe around it. We can all pursue that relationship together, even though they're so different.
I
Our
agree.
personal systems of belief. How genius is that? One house that we can all do our work in together, and we all are getting better and closer in our relationships with our Creator, but we could literally all have different ideas about who that Creator is, and we can still work together in harmony.
Yeah,
Impressive.
I was just thinking about Samuel, which is one of the books, 1st and 2nd Samuel, which is with Chronicles and Kings, which we just referenced earlier, where the story and accounts of King Solomon and David are all found. Samuel was a prophet, and he was called to go to I'm going to paraphrase it here big time, but he was called to go to a meeting of all the different spiritual aspects of the day. And he challenged them on a mountain. And at the end of the day, it was whoever you think is God, follow him. As for me and my house, I'm going to follow the Lord. He's talking about the Lord of the temple. He's talking about Yahweh, the Lord of the Israelites. And that's the attitude that I have. My Christian brothers and friends, they criticize me all the time for, being in Masonry because I'm supposed to be an evangelize people, and I'm supposed to get everybody saved and all that stuff. And the truth is that anybody who wants to know what I know can ask me. I'll gladly tell them. But what I can't do is I can't force anything onto anybody. But what I can do is be in this place. This Masonry is a marketplace of ideas. And all of us, I keep thinking about the group, that circle around the fire. It was a marketplace of different ideas, and every man comes to this marketplace and shares what he believes and why he believes it. Every man should be in a position where take what is most plausible based on what you have found. Mm-hmm. And what you are believing, and investigate it to the point where you understand it fully, because to me the most important aspect of the human existence is the spiritual side of it. Because if there is an eternity, what does that mean, and what happens when we go there? We don't have all the facts necessarily, so it's the most important endeavor a man can do in his life, is to investigate the spirituality. You better know it, and you better investigate. If you're the kind of person who wants to investigate the whole thing, I recommend you do that. But when you come to the place where you find what is plausible, what is understandable, what is knowable, pursue it. Mm-hmm. Pursue it, and don't turn back from it. Don't be awash in 1,000, this is my opinion. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here.
Wrong. Oh, sorry.
Give
your opinion first.
But don't be awash with 1,000 different beliefs that you only know a little bit about. Don't be that. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. What is the most, here's the question that I asked in the very beginning. What is the most plausible explanation for why I'm here? It's easier, from an evolutionary standpoint, it's easier for there to be nothing than something, right? Nothing doesn't take any work, doesn't take any chance, doesn't take any roll of the dice. Nothing is nothing. That's the easiest way.
Well,
however, there is something, more than just something. There is this incredible intricate design out there. Everything I look at has a major design to it. There's a Lilliputian world of atomic activity in everything you see.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why is it there? That's the question you should ask. Why am I here? What is the reason for our existence? These are the greatest questions a man can ask, and it drives you to investigate.
Well, you'll never find any facts that will justify any particular point of view.
Well, I disagree with that, but go ahead.
Okay, you're entitled. But the largest growing segment of our population, the fastest growing, are the undecided spiritually. I don't know if you've read any of these studies.
Yeah,
but
they're called nuns.
right. Like they don't apply themselves to any specific group or organization when it comes to this. And I think they're not necessarily atheists. And this is where it's starting to get confusing. They just don't want to admit that it's possible to know. And so they don't try to pretend they know. And I think, some people might actually be atheists, but to me, that's the opposite of saying I just don't know. An atheist is like, I know there's how do you
Right, it's
know
a big
that,
universe,
man? Come
bro. You
on.
sure about that?
What facts? You have no facts. Just like they may not have facts to prove what they believe, but you believe something, obviously, if you're taking that path. But the big group are the unknowns, the people that just say,
Right.
I don't know that we are meant to know this, and I'm not willing to just make up something in my mind, and so they don't.
Yeah, they're
pick
Gnostic.
something.
They're Gnostic. I
Gnostic,
don't
yeah.
know, and I don't know, and I don't really care.
I think that's interesting that's the largest growing group I know in our country. I don't know about the rest of the world.
Well, I know in like the African continent, the believe it or not, the Christian church is exploding across the continent.
In Africa?
In Africa right now, it's absolutely exploding. There is a secret underground church in China, believe it or not, where it's illegal to have a church there. They're growing like crazy. And it's the secret church, so the home church thing. So it's very different here, or let me just say it's very different in the West.
I think it's because we have that luxury, right?
Luxury is we're
that
dying.
luxury.
Our luxuries. We're luxuriating ourselves to
Yeah.
death.
Because
That's a book. That's a really good book, by the way.
anywhere where there's human suffering, it does make sense that religion would flourish in the place because they need something to get them through that painful suffering.
Or that's one opinion. I get that. I
think
understand that,
that's
but
because those people are going to be extremely more receptive because they need something to latch on to get through this difficult stuff.
well, that right, and I understand what you're saying. For me, it would be more like there's an actual being behind it, calling people to himself through it,
I see.
as opposed to a coping mechanism. Right?
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, Vladimir Lenin said that it's the opium. Religion is the opium of the masses. What he meant is that it's not. He was an atheist. It's not real, but they
If
cling
don't feel
to
good.
right. They cling to it because they're afraid of being eaten by lions. So they make up a god in their mind,
Yeah.
which isn't actually there, and everybody's happy because of it. And I think it was Freud who kind of took it to the next level on that, but I don't know. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong here. And by the way, all this discussion kind of stuff that we're doing is this. You guys who listen to us know this is how we do it. This is how we do. If you disagree, please email us and let us know how and why you disagree, because that's what we're all about here, man.
Speaking of,
Yeah.
I found the email from that brother.
Oh yeah.
And I'll tell you what his name is. He was commenting on episode 21, which was the most recent one. It's Lessons from the Master's Degree, Part 4. Apparently, we had a discussion about Batman. And his name's Josué Romero. He's one of our top fans.
Nice.
He said, great episode, my brothers. Looking forward to the next one. Just a few things I'd like to point out. First, George Clooney did, in fact, play Batman.
Ooh.
See attached photos.
Schooled.
And then he went on to talk about the beauty of our craft and the Apprentice degree. And then he sent some pictures of George Clooney on playing Batman. So,
Nice.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to go watch it.
When he says send us your messages, tell us if you disagree, that's a great way. Just
do it. And by the way, good catch, brother. Good catch. Yeah.
it's that easy.
Yep.
You can just send a Facebook message these days.
Yeah, I don't get them. The Facebook messages; those go directly to Chris. I don't know why.
You get them. Yeah,
I don't get them. I don't know why, but
you got to be logged into Facebook as on the level, and then you'll see them. Yeah, I know technology's fun.
I started out. My Facebook problem is that I think I have like 2 or 3 Facebook accounts out there that I don't know about, and it doesn't let me do anything now until I figure out how to get out there and delete those.
Ooh, you better figure that out.
I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm 60 years old. I have an excuse. So I don't get me wrong.
You
I
focus on this magic box, and I'll focus on that magic box, and together we'll figure this out.
I'll do the hardware. You do the software.
I can't figure the hardware out. I'm like, where do I plug stuff in? There's holes. I don't know.
Wires and gadgets and boxes. Yeah. I love them.
I don't.
All right, let's get back to the actual reason we're here today.
Solomon's Temple.
Solomon's Temple. The symbolism of the temple for a Freemason is founded upon the concept of man himself as a living temple for the enthronement of God within each of us.
Yeah.
Based upon that beautiful passage in the Pauline letter to the Corinthians.
Is that a Gnostic view?
No.
No?
Gnostic view?
Yeah.
So, explain.
That we are God. God is inside of us, not in...
No. God. Well, in the
little bit of Gnosticism in that statement.
In the Christian sense, and that's what this is referring to. This is very
okay.
Christian, because he's talking about a Pauline letter to the Corinthians, which is in 2 Corinthians. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? So what he's talking about there is that we're not God, although we are imago Dei, we are created in the image of God. We are not gods ourselves. God, the Holy Spirit, dwells within the believer for the purpose of transformation.
That's a Christian statement.
Very Christian statement right here. And it's,
okay.
and we have to be honest about that. Freemasonry borrows a lot of its imagery and a lot of its writings from the Jewish and Christian faith. It just does. Mm-hmm. There's just no way around that. So these kind of references come up all the time. It's one of the things that got, as a Christian, it was one of the things that got me interested in it. It's like, wow, the more
can relate to some of it.
I can relate totally to any of those scriptural references. I can relate to.
Yeah.
I've studied it for so many years, which is amazing. It doesn't preach, Freemasonry doesn't preach Christianity. And it is not a Christian faith. There is no religion. It borrows from the symbolism of it.
Yeah.
Which I find absolutely fascinating. But it's not a religion. All right. We say it all the time. Freemasonry is not a religion, nor is it a political viewpoint. There are religious people in Freemasonry. There are spiritual and religious men within our fraternity.
Hopefully all of them.
And all of them.
If we did our job right.
Hopefully all of them are willing to share with each other for the benefit of knowledge and education with gentleness and respect, so that we can all grow. We can all grow in where we're going in this journey together.
There's a lot of other cultural groups represented in Freemasonry here, other than Christianity and Judaism. You will find some Egyptian things,
right,
and Hermetic things in the system, and Gnostic in nature. And I think we should do future podcasts on that.
I would be absolutely thrilled to do that.
Do you know what Hermeticism is, or the founder, Hermes Trismegistus? Have you heard of that kind of stuff?
I don't know enough about it.
Okay, then we definitely got to do a podcast.
But that I will dive deeply into it because we just talked about it.
Buckle up, it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah, absolutely. I think, and then I think Brother Wade Botkin is always talking about Kabbalah.
Yeah,
as well.
Mystical.
Which is kind of a thing as well, which I've looked into a little bit. I find it fascinating as well. And again, just because we're discussing it doesn't mean you have to buy into it.
Right.
What it means, though, is that you should.
Doesn't hurt your brain to have the knowledge that it exists.
Well, if you truly know what you believe and why you believe it, it should sharpen you,
right,
and make you better. And if there is things you need to change and adjust in your thinking and believing, then do so. Be open to it. I'm completely open. I have not yet found anything to convince me to make any kind of spiritual changes in
You
my belief
probably
structure.
won't.
But
You shouldn't. In Freemasonry, it's not enticing you to do that.
Exactly.
So.
That's exactly right. But the beauty of it is having these great conversations with other brothers, I think, is just one of the joys of life.
Yeah.
And it just really enhances relationships, and just your own knowledge base in life. I can have conversations with people based on conversations I've had with brother Masons about their faith now.
Yeah, good training
because I
wheels.
know, yeah, right. I know
No
stuff
doubt.
now that I didn't know before about other faith traditions and things like
Yeah.
that. And it's only because open discussion.
Yeah, and we can talk like that without the fear of offense or, anger coming into it. And I think that's great training wheels for life, because then at some point we're going to meet someone who challenges us and is provoking, and you already know how to deal with the situation.
That's right.
You know how to talk calmly about that.
That's right.
Or
That's
walk
right.
away if they're not capable of talking in that way with you. Then it's not a conversation you should be having. It's not worth your time.
I think just the fact that I've seen a lot of men who were unable to sit down and have conversations,
No, they want to fight.
and they want to fight,
These
but are
days-
now able to. They're learning to, because
Yeah.
we've kind of created that culture in the lodge
Yes.
where you have, if you're going to talk about anything, you have to do it with gentleness and respect
Yeah.
for the other person. That's because we're grown men and we're Masons. That's what we're supposed to do, you know?
Mm.
And I think that lesson alone is worth the price of admission, because we don't know how to disagree with each other in this country. You know, it's the
Can't get
the
anything
elites
done if you can't
have
discuss.
created the right versus left,
Yeah.
lie out there, where it's just all of us, and then it's them on the top, and they're the ones
Right.
creating the fight between the two of us as they continue to pilfer and
Yes.
pillage, all of our goods.
Our power is together.
Yeah, that's
as
right.
People.
That's right. There's no political agenda or issue that should separate me from a fellow countryman.
Right.
It just shouldn't happen. There are people out there who hate me because of my political position.
Oh God, me too.
Right?
And
And it's like-
because they heard or saw something that makes them think they know who I am because of that one bit of information they have about me.
Right.
They can extrapolate everything else based on that, because
Right.
that's where we're at today. Is you're either a red piece or a blue piece on the chessboard.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if you're not that color, you're the enemy.
Yeah. And all the while, those who created this ridiculous game
we are
are
pieces in the
continuing
game,
to
yeah,
become
no doubt.
billionaires, and,
Yeah.
and world leaders and all this
But this
crap.
is a solution to that. Like,
This
we-
is.
we can
Freemasonry
actually
has a way out.
Learn the skills to cooperate and work together despite our differences.
Yeah.
If we can if we can carry this out into the population, we truly will have done something great for humanity.
I agree. All right, 5.16. We'll finish up with this. Solomon, king of Israel. Solomon was the son of David and Bathsheba. Great story. He was born about 997 BC and became king in 977, reigning 40 years. He died in 937 BC. In the history of the Hebrew people, the reign of Solomon stands out as one in which the greatest power, prosperity, and recognition of that nation was achieved. The name Solomon means peaceful, and his reign was one of peace. So, King Solomon represents a time, the pinnacle of prosperity and influence throughout the world. There was no other more wealthy, prosperous, and influential nation on the planet at that time. I mean, they were absolutely, blessed in every way.
They had money and land and women.
And apparently, women. Okay.
He had a lot of wives.
He had too many wives.
Mm-hmm.
More than two would be too
More
many.
than two, yes.
More than one, sorry, would be a problem. I can't handle the one I have. I couldn't imagine. Could you imagine having two or three? How about 600?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
that would not be
I guess
good.
it's like kids. After 3, it's like, what's the difference? You can't manage that many anyways. It's all chaos.
I can't manage the one I have. Are you kidding me? Anyways, he
That's because she's managing you.
well, that could be, which I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay with that.
And you
Somebody
know
needs
what?
to manage this mess.
You need somebody to help you in your life.
That's right.
And someone that challenges you is the best kind of somebody to bring into your life
Agreed.
and help
Absolutely.
you change which is the hardest thing to do. And you'll probably do it if it's somebody that you truly care about trying to get you to do that.
That's right.
But was not he the wisest? Is not
he was
Solomon
the wisest
known for his wisdom?
His wisdom was given to him by God, and
Uh-huh.
it's in the book of I want to say Samuel, could be in Kings, but he was ordained by God to be the one to build the temple. His father David was said, "No, it ain't you. Too much blood on your hands. It will be your son."
Guy got ripped off.
No, he didn't. David completely was like, "Yep, you're right." And it was given over to his son Solomon, and God said to him, "Tell me what you want, and I'll give you whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that I have anointed to build the temple and to be the king. What do you want?" And he said, I need wisdom. I'm a kid. I'm just a child. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to need wisdom." And God said, "Well, because you didn't ask for, all of these trinkets and cheap stuff, but asked for wisdom to guide the people, I'm going to give you all of it." So he gave him not only wisdom, but gave him riches, wealth, and power
Jackpot,
and influence because of his humility was the reason why he was given all of those things. And then he went on to be a great king. So and his escapades are not only written in Scripture, there are other extra biblical texts about his life and the things that he did. And some of the systems that he set up are still in place today, and the ideas and concepts. The reason why gold is still valuable today and considered intrinsic money, not like our dollar bill, which is currency, very different, is because of King Solomon used that as the standard of wealth. He established it was already a standard of wealth, but he established it as the global, universal representation of wealth.
Yeah.
So the gold itself is worth
He
what
set
it's
the
worth.
gold standard.
He set the gold standard. Now, like with every man, every great man has been given a great task. His great riches, power, and influence caused him to begin to stumble and fall away. And he did, in fact, fall away from his original charter, but he never let down the people. The man never let down the people, but he did, in fact, his sons and grandsons and great-grandsons went further and further down and down and down and down until finally it was all taken from them by the king of the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar. So it's the same story. It's the same story, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
repeating.
You look at I've known lots of men, good men who started companies, and they got successful. And I watched them go from driving an old junky pickup truck to driving brand new, $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $80,000 trucks with offices and shops and employees. And then the next thing you know, you hear the guy's in jail because he's been doing drugs and doing prostitutes and falling away, and his wife's leaving him, and the kids are all angry. It's like, and I've seen it. Yeah. We've all seen it. We've all heard it. It happens. And the reason why is because if you don't guard your heart, you have to guard your heart, and it doesn't matter who you are, man, woman, and any time if you don't guard your heart against these things, you will always fall away.
Yeah, I think the more wealthy and powerful, I mean, I guess it's easy to hate on people that are wealthy and powerful, but it seems like they at some point start to believe all the yes men that are yes menning them to
right
death.
Yep.
At some point they just choose to make that their worldview. I am a genius, or I am a deity. Everything I think is awesome. And they buy that, and then that's it. It's
right.
Like that downhill slope comes so fast at that point.
Yeah, that natural man takes over. And that's all about self.
Self-implode, because no one can survive that way. You have to be humble, no matter how. And that's what I love to see. I love to see people that didn't come from wealth get wealth. And sure, maybe they stumble for a minute because it's like so difficult to adjust. And maybe they get into drugs or something and absorb. But then eventually snap out of it and go, what am I doing? This isn't me. I'm this humble young guy, or this poor person from wherever. I just happen to have some money. And then they live the rest of their life like in a place where we all want to get to, where you use it for something good. And they get involved in charities, and they try to help as many people as they can. And typically, because we're people, we only focus on things that have affected us. That's how
Right.
it works.
Yeah.
My mom had this cancer, so I'm going to focus on that. Or my brother had this issue, so I'm going to focus on that. Or I have an issue, so that's my thing that I'm going to focus on.
Yeah. I was thinking while you were talking there about Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And
there
his
you go.
story. You know, he was absolutely on his way to dying from drugs and alcohol use. I mean, he was an absolute reprobate.
But see, he didn't come from nothing, right? He had parents that
He
were
had-
kind
right.
of affluent.
Oh,
and
absolutely. Yeah. He was born into it.
So he
And-
never developed any coping mechanisms in his whole life.
Right.
He just
It was,
grew
ha-
up in that environment.
it was handed to him.
There was no choice. He was done. I mean,
yeah.
the poor
Well,
guy had
like
no-
King Solomon. You
Yeah.
know, King Solomon was was a kingly line, man. He was, you know, his father was the greatest king that was ever known, Israel ever knew, the warrior king, the lion of the tribe of Judah. You know, that was him. And that was his dad, you know, and he was in line to be the king. I'm not saying that Robert Downey Jr. is that great. He's a great actor. I dig the guy.
Well, he survived it, right?
but
Like
he totally survived it. He made a choice.
his contemporaries, some of them didn't make it, like
Some of-
River Phoenix.
Right,
Young
yeah.
guy just overdosed.
Yep.
Crazy partying.
Yep.
And what is wisdom, if not the accumulation of mistakes? He's lucky enough to have aged out of it. And once you make those mistakes and you learn lessons from them, you become wise.
Right. Yeah.
And people don't realize the wisest person is the person who survived the most mistakes. They're the most damaged and scarred, probably.
Yeah.
But they made it, and so they deserve to be revered for their wisdom, I think, even though they've done bad stuff.
Yeah, I think he must have got to a point, and I can say this in my own life too, where, you know, why should I be unhappy? In other words, everybody who goes through these struggles, not everybody, but most of the people that go through these struggles, and I've counseled as a chaplain a lot of guys along these lines, is that I would ask them the question, you know, do you think that you're just as eligible for happiness as anybody else? If you're sitting in a city bus with a bunch of strangers, are you more or less eligible or worthy of happiness than the people who are in that bus? And the answer is you're just as eligible and or worthy of it. You're no less or more worthy of it. So why do you continue to trash your life as if it's not worth fighting for, you know? And these are the questions that must be answered. Somewhere along the line, Robert Downey Jr. answered that question.
Yeah.
You know, and he said, well, my life is worth fighting for, worth working for because of A, B, and C. And very rare, I can tell you that from experience, he actually did it.
Yeah.
He actually did it. And I've counseled, I used to do chaplain work in the Sarasota County Jail, and I've counseled countless young men in that place. And I honestly, hundreds of young men, I would say probably 12, a dozen of them actually took it to heart and made changes in their lives and actually did it. It is so hard.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got off on this, but I'm glad we did.
20% of them maybe can get out of it. A percentage are going to die.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
Or become homeless and destitute and then die.
Yeah.
Or get into crime, you know, because...
Get stuck in the system so deeply that they're never going to get out. Yeah.
I was just watching a documentary on Netflix about a very, very popular musician who's from England.
Yeah.
This guy is a really unattractive guy.
Yeah.
Kind of really out of shape and not a good-looking guy.
Right.
But he sings like an angel. And I'd heard his music. I had no idea who he was or what his story was. And this guy comes from nothing in England, like legit nothing. And he had anxiety, like most people do. And he became rich so fast, so popular, so fast.
Yikes.
That he's working on his second album and he's having a nervous breakdown.
Oh,
His
no.
tics are exceeding to the point where he's having practically seizures and, you know, he's not able to think or sleep. And he has to take like half a year off to focus on his mental health. And so the first time in his life, he talks to therapists and realizes, my grandma died really young. I had this trauma that's affected me, and I'm always thinking and depressed about death. But outwardly, all he projects is humor, and his family's like, I don't get it. He's such a happy-go-lucky kid.
Right,
like,
right.
No, he's putting on a show for you people.
Right. That's his coping
He
mechanism.
doesn't want you to see what he's dealing with.
Right.
And then the fame and the fortune and all that just exacerbates what's already there. And now he's going around telling everybody, like, yeah, I have severe anxiety, I have imposter syndrome. He's probably the best modern musician making music today.
No kidding. Wow.
It's crazy. And I'm like telling my wife, like, this isn't crazy. This is how everyone feels. It's just he doesn't have a lifetime of influence stopping him from saying it. The truth.
Right.
Like
right.
most
right,
of them do.
Right.
Most of them want you to think they don't have any problems. They're
Right.
not. Everything's fine. Like
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want you to know he probably relapses now and then.
Right.
He probably falls off the wagon. He probably has fits of depression. But those aren't stories you're going to see in the paper or read about because it's not inspirational, but it's the truth.
Right.
Everybody
Yeah.
struggles.
That's
All of us struggle. So I love to see these people who now everybody's looking at this guy and like, oh my God, this is shocking. It's not shocking. This is the human experience put on display for all of us to see.
Right.
And, we should take lessons from that. Like learning how to cope with these negative thoughts and feelings is going to be it's going to be the fight of your life, probably. Because we all are broken.
What you said is so true. It comes down to that being honest, being dreadfully honest with yourself, which makes it real easy to be honest with the general public, because you can just open up because this is what I discovered about myself. And if I had not discovered it, I'd be dead, and people are attracted to that, but it's true. The media persona is this Madison Avenue sales job
perfection, right?
Of perfection. Yeah. We're supposed to have, and if you go on that ridiculous TikTok, which is just ridiculous to me, I
Chinese spy app,
whatever it is, it's stupid. But you can see all of this phony facade that's out there, But if you have personal relationships, and the point I was trying to make is that the difference between the virtual relationships, which are fake from the very core, and personal relationships with those few people in your life that you can be real with, that's the difference. Mm-hmm. Is you see those flaws, you see those constant flaws all the time in their lives, and you can be honest with each other about them and help each other about them.
Yeah.
And that's why we were talking earlier about this new generation of people who are putting the phones down and going outside and building relationships and all of this stuff. They're going to find that benefit. Yeah. They're going to find that. I hope that's the trend that's going, in the West,
I hope so.
For the younger generation, because it's just an absolute shit show out there with regard to all that, because the virtual lie is just that. Yeah. It's a lie. It's an absolute lie, and it's designed it kills you. It kills creativity. It kills love. It kills all of those things are destroyed by that entire lie. And I'm over it. I'm a 60-year-old man. Nobody's listening to me, but
I think that there's a movement of people probably that are very interested in that.
I agree. We talked about that earlier. You're right.
Media,
they're out there.
Television, society has been feeding you this dream of a life.
Yeah, buy more product. Be the consumer.
It'll fix your problem.
It'll fix your problem.
If you have this dishwashing detergent, your marriage will be fantastic.
Yeah, right. Dishwashing soap.
Yeah, whatever. It's like the next thing to buy is going to solve all your problems. Yeah. It hasn't been for a long time in style to address hard decisions and acting in a virtuous way. That hasn't been for a long time something we've concerned ourselves with. And I think we might be getting to a point where there could be a renaissance happening where people just want real and they're kind of fed up with all the bullshit and the fake.
I hope so.
The glitzy, glamoury stuff. I mean, like kids, we're fascinated because we never had it. Like, that's what happens. The things you don't have in your childhood, you obsess over as adults. Right. But these kids didn't have freedom. They've never had real freedom. They've never really experienced real, honest relationships with people. And so I think as they grow up, that's what they're going to be desiring, is that thing that they didn't have when they were children. Right. And I hope that is the case. I hope that's the case because that might save us.
Yeah, I think, I don't know why I thought of this, but the difference between playing a video game that simulates riding a motorcycle, and the difference of actually riding a motorcycle. Yeah. And I'm telling you right now, as somebody who used to race motocross growing up in high school, the difference, you'll never go back. You know, if the more these young people get outside and do these things, these actual things again, instead of virtually experiencing them, the less likely they are to go back to them, you know, and to give them up. It's like, that's lame. I spent how much time doing this and money? Wait, you know, I could be, I don't know, learning how to do a sailboat, right? You live in Sarasota. There's groups out there that'll teach you how to operate a freaking sailboat. Wouldn't that be cool, you know? Or you could play a video game that simulates it, you know? I mean,
and you won't smell the salt water,
right?
Or feel the breeze on your face, or
right, man.
See the dolphin breach next to you while you're out there in the middle of nowhere.
I hope so. It's a lofty idea, but I see it. Like I said, my one son, he just gives me hope because he's got those stars in his eyes. Yeah, you know, and I see guys like Kyle and you know, and Sean and you know, the younger guys in our lodge, man, who are just like, you know, they're wanting real experiences with real people. Yeah, and that gives me hope. That's a seed, man. That's worth cultivating.
And they're a little more tolerant.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
Our generation is.
Yeah, I hope so.
It's our generation with the divisiveness. I think theirs maybe isn't as much.
Yeah. I mean, the Western culture became this us and them mentality. And again, I think the elites from the top down kind of fostered it, you know, for their own agenda. But I don't, you know, the church certainly didn't help. You know, they became
anywhere men are involved. I mean, where you give them some power over other people, it's going to
go social
that
clubs,
way.
You know, but fine, you want to have a social club, but a social club with an open door, you know, that's willing to go out and meet other social clubs. That's great. That's awesome. But when we become just a society of two social clubs that are opposed to each other, you know, and at all costs, you know, I don't hate you because of this. I hate you because of what you believe, but I don't really know what you believe. I just know that you're wearing a red hat and I'm wearing a blue hat, or you're wearing a blue hat and I'm wearing a red hat, you know. And it's like, and that's I think more and more we got to stop eating this one to death.
I'm still unfriending people on social media that are Masons for the things that they say. I thought I was done with that a couple years ago, but no. I just saw something yesterday. It's such a incredibly divisive thing. Yeah. Where you literally are just calling half of the population jack-offs.
Right, which is just ridiculous.
I'm like, wait, brother, this doesn't make sense to me. And I didn't unfriend right away because he's made it through this many not unfriendings. And I hope that raises awareness when a brother says to you, this isn't really nice, you know. Yeah. It's okay to have the idea, but couldn't you express it in a more loving way than the, you know, aggressive, divisive one that you use to describe that? And you can't fix institutions, but you can fix people, hopefully. Right. And then over time, the institutions will be overrun by good people. Yeah. So Freemasonry is here to save society.
Yeah, I think in Aristotle's teaching on rhetoric, he talks about this obviously came from Socrates in his teaching, but it's the things that you say, are they necessary, are they truthful, and are they helpful? Are they necessary, truthful, or helpful? Because anything else you're wasting your time and the other person's time. And you're not helping anybody. Is it necessary, truthful, and helpful?
I like that.
You know, and because
you talk a lot less if it's not necessary, truthful, or helpful.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of unnecessary talking going on out there.
But yeah, you know, I think to the campfire discussion we had, there were some people that were talking their heads off because that's who they are. And there were other people that might have said two things the entire night. Right. And I tell you, when that person was talking, I sat up and leaned forward in my chair and turned my ear to hear every word that was said. Right. Like, exactly. Something about the guy who talks less, what he says feels more important to me. I don't know why that is. Yeah.
And I know the brother you're talking about, and he was observing and listening the entire time.
Yeah. They're totally engaged.
And formulated a really good question and comment based on what he'd been, you know,
great example.
And listening. Perfect example.
His words
Absolutely.
were so much more powerful because it wasn't just blah, 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 blah.
Right. All right.
There was some substance there.
I think it was a pretty good discussion overall. I don't know if we really went deep into the actual text there.
No, we did not.
But I don't think we needed to on this particular podcast. I thought it was a pretty good discussion. The directions we went in. What else is going on, man?
So much is going on.
I know.
So much is going on.
Where do we start?
I have a colonoscopy on Monday.
Let's not start there.
Okay, let's end with that part.
Let's end with the colonoscopy.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, we're in a crazy district that's just so busy. I am in a fellow craft entered apprentice and master mason degree in the next couple weeks. We did our first esoteric discussion night this past weekend. In just a few short days, we're going to be in Hillsborough Lodge for the Southeast Masonic Education Symposium.
Woohoo!
At an all-day event, speaking and on a panel discussion there. Next month, we'll be at Grand Lodge. We'll have a booth.
Yeah,
You
I'm
and I will
excited
be
about
there.
that. Interviewing some people from the Grand Line.
Yeah, and you, if you want to come by and say hi.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
We will be busy, okay, because we get in Sunday night, and we're probably going to leave shortly after session on Tuesday because we have jobs we have to get back to.
Right, yeah.
And I'll be bringing my wife. I think you're not. You're
No,
solo,
my wife's
right?
staying home, yep.
So yeah, be very busy because I'm actually active, right? I got to get my past master's degree. We got to do all the voting and stuff on Tuesday. But that being said, if you email us at Chris at On the Level with Fred and Chris
or Fred at onthelevelwithfredandchris.com.
Between now and then, we can set up a time ahead of time, or maybe we can get together with you for, it doesn't need to be long, 10 minutes, and just get you on the show. Or if not, just come by the booth and shake our hand and say hi.
Yeah, we'd love that. That'd be
if nothing
great.
Else, if you're not into that. And give us any suggestions you have to improve or any stories you have. But the main thing is we just want to meet people. So please don't hesitate to come by and say hi when you see the booth at Grand Lodge.
Yeah, it's gonna be an exciting time. And then, of course, that will cap our first season 1.
Yeah.
So that'll be the cap of season 1. We'll put. I mean, it'll always be out there. It's always going to be out there on the internet. It lasts forever. And then we'll begin season 2. Probably going to try to update some of our formatting and stuff. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
He's making commitments.
One of the things we're never going to do is change the way Chris and I interact on this podcast and the things that we talk about, which are always going to be 100% moving masonry to the next level, and on to that next level.
That's what we'll be talking about at the education symposium.
That's right. Yeah. What now? Masonry,
what now?
Where are we going? You know, some of the issues that have been identified with this sudden growth that masonry's been going through, and then we're going to offer a few solutions along the way. I'm really looking forward to this.
I can't wait to hear the discussion.
Yeah,
that's going to come from this.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And get to meet some people again. That's going to be nice.
Yeah.
I think from out of state. I think they come from all over the Southeast.
Right.
So we can meet Brother Nagy in person, who we've been talking to for a better part of a year now.
Definitely excited to shake his hand. Absolutely, man. That's going to be great.
I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah. So, life just goes on, man. I got a busy month ahead of me. I'm going on a cruise.
On your wife's situation?
Update on the wife's situation. She is she's great. She's doing really, really good health-wise. She was a professional musician. She sang in a musical band. She has decided to retire from
permanently.
it.
I thought she was taking a short break.
Until further notice. She went and did one which wore her out completely. And then they asked her to do one the next day in the afternoon, and she went, and she came home early, and she's like, I can't do this. So good on her, putting her health first.
Yeah.
I know it's something she loves to do. It's something she's very, very good at. So that's a shame. But, you got to, we make decisions in life, that, we got grandchildren, and I told her, how do I explain to our grandchildren that you ain't coming no more? That you had to go away. How do I do that?
Choice, right?
It's like, so you gotta make some choices. She made the right choice because she's a smart woman. She married me after all. And so
she got smart later in life. Got it.
So update on the wife, doing great. We're moving forward. I'm homeopathic, natural healing, they've given her all kinds of drugs and all this stuff. We're having a little controversy there, but I will prevail because there's nothing better than good, nutritious food for medicine, as my opinion. But anyway, doing good there. Busy month coming up. I've got Motor Corps. We've got our first competition coming up early in the month. I got a cruise I'm going on, and then we got Grand Lodge.
When's the cruise?
I don't remember. Middle of the month. Free cruise for every year. The place I work at gives us a free 5-day cruise. I'm pretty excited about that.
That'll be relaxing.
So well, we'll see about that.
Next week is my anniversary.
Oh, nice. How many years?
So we married 4, but living together for more like 8.
Okay.
So I just realized this over the weekend, and we threw together a Key West trip. So
oh, nice.
Next Wednesday, I'm headed down to Key West.
Love me some Key West.
Yeah. I actually last night planned fellowcraft practice with Phoenix Lodge, and I have to now text them and let them know I forgot to tell you I'm actually going to be out of town for that. I can't make it. That's what I'm saying. It's so busy. It's hard to find time for everything.
Right, yeah. And, of course, as Worshipful Master of 147, you're and as active as you are in the craft, throughout the district, that makes sense. I mean, you're working your schedule every day.
Oh yeah,
you're on it every day.
There's going on between the Master Mason
and
Association.
this time next year, it won't be as busy.
God. I'll be in Nobody Has Been Known. My phone won't be ringing off the hook.
Well, hopefully you and I will be busy doing speaking engagements and podcasts.
That'd be fun.
More and more. That'd be a lot of fun.
I'd enjoy that.
I would too. I
Wouldn't mind
want to get out there and meet. I want to meet every single Mason in this state, man. I want to get out there and visit every lodge and get to know as many active Masons as I possibly can, this year and next. I think that would be a great goal for the two of us to accomplish,
I think we're in the right place.
Yeah, I agree.
The right time.
I agree. And again, folks listening, you guys know we started this podcast. It was based on an idea and a conversation that Chris and I had, and the response that you guys have given us is overwhelming. Our promise to you, once again, is to always keep it real. We're gonna tell the truth from the heart, and we're always going to be about furthering the cause of our craft.
Yeah.
In this community, in the state, in this country, in this world,
We're trying to be the best possible version of Freemason that we can be in our lives personally. Yeah. And that's not always going to be perfect, but, we're trying, and I think that's what matters.
That's right.
We're making an effort, and we are very good Masons. We try to be industrious and useful to the craft. So yes, we have a podcast, and yes, we're working on other stuff to maybe even help in other ways.
Yeah, that's right.
With the craft.
That's right.
That we'll talk about more in the future, if any of it comes to fruition.
If any of it actually happens, we'll see how it goes. It's going. If it's going, it's going well. So that's all I got, brother. What about? I think we're an hour and a half in. We're trying to bump our time to an hour and a half. We're at an hour and 22. I'm good with that. What do you say?
I feel great about it.
All right.
So what do you think? We got one more Master Mason session?
I'm not going to say. Not going to say.
Could be several more.
Who knows? Let's just keep going until we're done. How about that? Yeah. So So guys, send us your emails. Let us know what you think. Suggestions for future podcasts. Once we get through Master Mason, we're going to be open to suggestions to start digging into some topics that are probably a little more current event kind of stuff and current needs within the craft and stuff. But we'll see.
We'll see what comes out of Grand Lodge. I'm curious to see what's important to them and what they want to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. Esoteric teaching out of the Mentor's Manual has been our most successful podcast content.
Yes.
You guys have told us over and over again, this is really what you guys like. So we're definitely going to always focus on that, the educational part of it, and encouraging you to take that education back to your lodge and become the guy. Be that guy within your lodge. So be on the level, man. Be a level head out there on your side. So that's all I got, brother. Until next time, man, I'll yak at you then.
Yak. See you then.